April 22nd, 1977, the year of smoky engines, scratchy AM radios, and men with sideburns longer than their attention spans. And on that day, the BBC aired the very first episode of what would become the most iconic car show on Earth. There were no explosions, no power slides, no Stig. Just a newsreader in heels, an Opel Manta, and the nation's most exciting discussion about fuel economy. Here on Four Wheels and Fuel, we're doing what they never did, explaining every single car ever shown on the show, episode by episode. In this one, the Ford Capri, a working man's sports car with delusions of grandeur. The Opel Manta, German precision and mild excitement. And the Triumph Stag, a beautiful British convertible with an engine made of hope and prayer. Let's roll back the clock and break down every car, one episode at a time. Ford Capri. Our first stop on this motoring time machine is the Ford Capri, a car that Ford advertised as the car you always promised yourself, which, translated from 1970s marketing speak, meant the closest thing to a Mustang you can afford without robbing a bank. Angela Rippon drove one of these from London to Birmingham to kick off the first ever episode. Not a bad way to start. Motorway, service stations, polite narration, and a car that looked like it was cosplaying as something far more powerful. The version seen on screen would have been the Mark II Capri, launched in 1974. This facelift brought in more practicality, a hatchback design, and slightly less testosterone in the styling. Under the bonnet? That depends. The Capri came with a dizzying range of engines, a modest 1.3-litre inline-4 pushing a weak 57 horsepower,
all the way up to the legendary 3-litre Essex V6 cranking out 138 horsepower.
The 3-litre V6 was the one that mattered. It could go from 0 to 60 in about 8.5 seconds and top out at 112 miles per hour. Not blistering by today's standards, but in the 1970s, that was motorway dominance, with a side of carburetor drama. The Capri wasn't just about speed, it was about vibe. It looked fast, even when parked next to a little chef. It had louvers, chrome, and rear-wheel drive, making it a favorite of both insurance fraudsters and weekend racers. If you watched enough TV back then, you'd swear half of British criminals drove one, and the other half were trying to steal it. But don't let the bad boy reputation fool you. The Capri was also dependable enough to be Mum's grocery car, if Mum had a bit of flair. By the late 70s, the Capri had become a fixture in Britain. It was cool, it was quick, and it had just enough power to keep you awake without scaring the life out of your passengers. Angela Rippon didn't hoon it. She just drove, calmly, through rain, to Birmingham, which is how every great British motoring story starts. Under grey skies, toward a grey city, in a car that made it all seem slightly less depressing. It was the Ford Mustang's tea-sipping cousin, and Britain loved it. Opel Manta B. Next up, the Opel Manta B, the car you drove if you wanted to look sporty, but also didn't want to be late for your job at the tax office. In this episode, the Manta was entered into a fuel economy rally, which sounds thrilling until you realize it's basically a race to see who can not accelerate the longest. But while the rally might have lacked excitement, the car itself had a quiet charm. Released in 1975, the Manta B was Opel's answer to the Ford Capri, a two-door coupe with rear-wheel drive, sharp angles, and a surprisingly refined ride for its price bracket. Under the hood, you had a few options. A 1.6-liter inline-4 with about 75 horsepower, or the 2-liter engine, the sportier choice, producing up to 110 horsepower. 0 to 60, around 11.5 seconds. Top speed, roughly 109 miles per hour, assuming you had a tailwind and a brave right foot. Sure, it wasn't thrilling, but the Manta wasn't trying to be a hooligan. It was dignified, reasonable, German. Opel, being GM's European arm, wanted this to be a mass-market hit, and in many ways, it was. especially among those who wanted just enough flair to feel different without looking like they were trying too hard. The real action in this episode? Watching someone try to eke out 40 miles per gallon while staying under 50, because nothing says edge of your seat motoring like coasting downhill in neutral. Still, there's something admirable about it. The Manta didn't roar, it cruised. And in a world full of noise, sometimes that's exactly what people wanted. It was the car you bought when you had 4,000 pounds and slightly more taste than your neighbor. Triumph Stag. And now, the Triumph Stag, the car chosen to demonstrate police speed enforcement tech in this episode, because nothing says law and order like a V8 convertible with a soft top and a cooling system that gives up faster than a British tennis player in the 1980s. Let's start with the good. The Stag was, and still is, stunning. Designed by Giovanni Michelotti, it had those classic GT proportions, long hood, T-bar roof, and just enough chrome to signal, I own a country house, or at least pretend to. But under that beauty was a ticking time bomb. Triumph gave it a 3-liter V8, made in-house, and you'd think that would be a good thing. 145 horsepower, 0 to 60 in about 9.3 seconds. Top speed, 120 miles per hour. The problem? The engine cooling system was held together with, essentially, bad decisions and garden hose connectors. Overheating was a feature, not a bug. But despite that, it was a dream on the right day. When it worked, the Stag drove like a proper grand tourer. Smooth, composed, slightly smug. And in the episode, it's used to demo radar guns and stopwatches. Because what better way to represent speed enforcement than with a convertible that's probably leaking coolant? It was beautiful. It was flawed. And like many things from 1970s Britain, it made you proud and miserable at the same time. So there you have it, the first trio of cars ever featured on the show. A fake Mustang, a respectable German, and a convertible that doubled as a boiling kettle. What began as a polite, softly spoken car program would soon evolve into the motoring mayhem we all know. But here, at the beginning, it was about everyday cars, driven by everyday people, doing very everyday things. Coming up in episode 2, a diesel-powered fuel economy champion, a Citroën that looks like it was designed during a coffee break, and a budget hatchback that defined Britain's parking lots.
Did this car ever live in your driveway or break down just outside it? Maybe it was your dad's pride, your mum's misery, or the reason you learned to swear in traffic. Whatever your story, drop it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to 4 Wheels and Fuel, because in the end, it's never just about the car.